welcome all of you to join us this evening. We have a very special opportunity to be able to hear from these candidates prior to the August primary. Before we get started, we want to establish the rules of this debate. We are given a 30-minute debate here where the candidates have the opportunity to respond in a timely manner with timed responses. Each candidate will be given 1 minute per question to respond. They will then have paddle boards up here that gives them the opportunity to have 2 rebuttals during the 30-minute debate. They will have 1 minute in those opportunities to have a rebuttal, and each candidate will then also be given 1 minute at the end for a closing statement. We have Jenny Hines, who is our executive producer in the front. She will flag and let the candidates know with the ringing of a bell and just cues on a paddle board when they are getting close to being timed. Each candidate also has an established order that Randy and I will address after each question is read. We will then decide who answers in what order. Again, we are asking that ABC6 News is the camera crew in this room. They are live streaming this, so you can access this at home on the web at KAAL-TV.com. And we have a news crew here as well that will cover this event and this debate for our 10 o'clock newscast. We ask that every other device be turned off during this debate. Thank you. Randy?
Thank you. And good evening, candidates, and good evening, audience. The first question tonight, budget challenges connected to the COVID-19 pandemic continue. What do you believe what should be the city's chief priority related to future budgets? And we'll start with Kim Norton, and then we'll head this way.
Thank you, and appreciate the event this evening. First and foremost, we have to provide for the services and public safety, the amenities that a city is required by law to present and offer to our community, and those need to be prioritized. So that would include police and fire, utilities, roads, and then other services follow after that. I think it's very important that the community use a process that allows plenty of time, and we've been doing it for the last several years now, where we put a budget forward and we spend many months discussing that budget at the city council table and having opportunities throughout that time for public input. So that's the process that we have been using, we will continue to use. It's nice to see finally the city rebounding somewhat, so hopefully we will not have the impacts that we've been seeing since the start of the pandemic in this year's budget.
Thank you. And next up, Dean Koutsoukos.
Again, thank you for all that have put together this opportunity for us. Just like Mayor Norton said, there's a pretty strict budget process in place. We got to provide for our fire, snow removal, police, utilities. One thing I would like to see is we put a list of needs, wants, and wishes, and we have kind of a stabilized budget throughout the years where we can take out wants, take out wishes, and just focus just on the needs that the city has to provide on the tough times. Thank you.
Thank you. And then same question, Brit Noser.
I think that I concur with some of these statements that have been made already. Obviously, we have to provide the prescribed services that our government, that our charter requires. I think this is a time for caution. The pandemic changed our economy structurally, and I think that in planning for budgets, we need to take this into account. I think Rochester in the last 5 years especially has been too free with spending, not just in connection with DMC, but with other things as well, and we need to think about trimming the sails and being realistic about the economy in the coming years. And therefore, we need to put aside some of the frivolous projects that we have spent so much money on in the last 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you. And Brad Trahan.
Likewise, I'd like to thank 125 Live and its membership, people in the audience, Randy and Laura Lee, for carrying this debate, and I also want to wish my best to my fellow candidates running for mayor's office. Simply, it's a reminder that the budget is actually, the mayor has input, but the budget is actually approved on by the city council and the city council president. Like a business at all times, it's not uncommon for a city government or a business to reevaluate its budget. We just came out of unprecedented times. Public safety is my #1 priority. but it's okay to take a look and reset that budget where you see you need to have the reset at. As you'll learn, simply in the $500 million budget, $200 million of it alone is just public utilities. So on top of public safety, we also have to take care of our public utilities as well. So I think it's important to have input, reevaluate, and make adjustments where you need to make adjustments at.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our second question, with public safety, as you have just mentioned, funding tied up at the state capitol, does the Rochester Police Department have enough officers and resources to support the city's public safety needs? If not, how does the city plan to meet those needs? We're going to begin with Brad Trahan first in this question.
Thank you for the question. Just recently, Rochester Police Department just started 10 more police officers last week. If you really look at what's going on with public safety, of the $85 million levy, about 60% of it is tied up with Rochester Police and the Rochester Fire Department. It is my priority to make sure that the police department and public safety in general have the resources and necessities they need to carry out their duties. We have to really take a good, hard look at what's going on in our community. Roughly, when you talk to Chief Franklin, he's going to tell you that we have a major drug problem going on in our community. So we have to really be conscious to make sure that we keep the staffing levels at the full court press for our police department, but we can't ignore other areas that our public safety does as well. They're great in the community. They work with many different programs. If you've been to Safe City Nights like I have, been to CERT, talking to those communities, safety is a priority. We need to continue to make police department and public safety at the forefront of our minds, because our community is nothing if we don't have public safety with our great police department.
All right, thank you, Brad. Brit Noser, we're going to have you follow up with this. Again, if the Rochester Police Department does not have enough officers and resources to support the city's public needs, if not, how does the city plan to meet those needs?
Well, public safety is the most important thing, and it's one of the principal purviews of the mayor of Rochester, being the chief magistrate. And so I would do anything possible to maintain sufficient policing in our city. And I would say that we even might need a surge in policing given the continued rise in violent crime and drug crime in our community. Recently, there was a shooting 2 blocks from St. Mary's where 22 shots were fired. And so I'm not sure how this fits in with becoming sort of a Magic Kingdom medical visiting place when we have this type of crime. So I see this as a huge problem. People don't feel safe. I've been out on the campaign trail talking to the citizens, and in many cases, people don't go downtown because they simply don't feel safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Dean Koutsoukos.
Public safety is very important, like we all feel. Our officers see many things that many of us would cringe at, and they see that on a daily basis. We need adequate officers to deal with these issues, and we need adequate officers so the rest of the officers have downtime after dealing with some of these major issues. Many cities have implemented programs where they tackle crime early in its stages when it's cheaper, and that's the best way to deal with it. Once we get into major crimes, it's more expensive. And I would like to work with our police department to see what we can do to tackle things before they get to the major level. Thank you.
And Kim Norton, what's the same question?
Certainly. So I would say a couple things need to be mentioned. One, the police department has gotten their budget request fully funded every year that if they ask for it, and it comes before the city council. The city council has indeed funded all of their requests. The issue isn't do we have enough money in the budget. The issue is, are there officers available? While I've been mayor, we've been filling the vacancies as they come, and it is becoming harder and harder to hire officers because the pipeline for officers is very short, and there's a lot of recruiting being done across the state. So the issue we have isn't simply here in Rochester, it is across the state. So it is about having a hard time filling the positions that is the issue. Also, we've been working hard on community policing and providing counselors in support of our police department. And again, all of that has been funded in the budgets.
All right, thank you, Kim. We have one rebuttal from Brad Trahan. Oh, 2. Thank you. Let's start with Brad. We saw his hat
Brad.
first.
Can I get 1 minute for this?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to add on. This is an excellent opportunity for the city of Rochester to continue partnerships with Olmsted County. We've had resource officers from the county ride with our police department. It was at 4 Liaison Community Services social workers ride with police. Now they're upping that to 6 people. They've found that to be an extreme benefit to help our police officers on the streets deal with the crisis at the time. So we really need to continue to look at those particular partnerships between the city and county, and what can we do, what resources can we give to those police officers to help them at the time that they're gone on this calls. I've ridden along with the police department 2 times, and it's been an amazing experience. We have amazing police officers doing amazing work, and I think we just continually need to give them the tools to do what they can to help our community out.
All right, thank you, Brad. Brit?
Yes, I think it's a very important thing to understand that we are facing a huge shortage of police officers, not just in our city, in our state, in our country. We are facing this. And we have to ask ourselves, why is this the case? Why are there not more people who want to be police officers? It's very important work, and it's an honorable job, but we are facing extreme shortages, 1,000 officers in Minnesota. And we have to think about police departments, how they're run, how leadership in cities handles policing matters, and how they support the police. And I can assure you that as your mayor, I will be giving my full support. The police department will know that they have the full backing of City Hall, and they won't have to be afraid of doing their work as they were after the recent unpleasantries in our country. I know for a fact from talking to officers and talking to people in the city that Rochester police officers felt they couldn't do their job. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Brit. Kim Norton also has one rebuttal as well.
Yeah, I think all of us, as you're hearing, are focused on making sure our community is safe. That has been my priority for the last 4 years as mayor. We have worked with our police department and built up the community policing, but post George Floyd's murder, we have had a job to do. We have had to rebuild trust, because there has been an assumption that what happens in Minneapolis or other communities is the same here in Rochester. So it has been our job and responsibility to let folks know that that is not the case, that we have a wonderful police department that does a great job under very challenging times. And so that's what we have focused on, rebuilding trust, rebuilding and building out the community policing, trying to work on hiring. And I'm very proud of our officers and our department, and I think all the community should be as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Randy?
All right, for the next question, we'll talk about worker shortages continue to provide challenges in nearly every job sector locally. What is the city's role in solving the problem and getting more people back to work? And for this question, we'll start with Brit Noser.
Thank you. I think, again, it's important to look at the root causes of why we're facing a worker shortage. And the pandemic presented many challenges, which is when you face challenges is when you need leadership. And I think that better leadership would have positioned us better to have more workers and to have less of a worker shortage. The response to the pandemic, and it isn't necessarily a responsibility of local leaders, but created this problem. And I don't think that the government can do much to solve this problem other than removing impediments to doing business. Deregulation and incentivizing investment in our community is probably about all. The government doesn't do very many things well, and certainly creating jobs, in my opinion, is definitely not one of them. Thank you.
Okay, second, we'll go to Brad Trahan. Again, the question is, what's the city's role in solving the workforce shortage problem and getting people back to work?
Well, there's no finer candidate to do that than me, because I've been a headhunter for the last 10.5 years, placing candidates in jobs that are $50,000, $150,000 a year. We are facing a real shortage in staffing, and it's just not government, it's also the private sector. Go around, drive around, and see what you got going on in our restaurants and hospitality industry. We have to take a robust approach. We have to think outside the box. Right now, when I'm headhunting for candidates, no matter what the job is, I'm not just focusing locally. I'm focusing outside Minnesota. I'm focusing wherever I can focus at. Because you know what? We have a great community. I've been in this community for 41 years, and it's a fantastic community. We can be, as your mayor, I will be the cheerleader. I will be the ambassador for this community, because we have a lot of great things going on in this community. So we cannot sit back. We call it right now, post and pray. People will post a job and they pray someone applies. That's not my attitude. We're going to go out there and we're going to seek ideas, seek resolutions, and we're going to bring those candidates to Rochester, Minnesota. We're going to do everything we can to be part of the solution. And it's just not a government function to try and help out. Let's also help out our local businesses too.
Thank you. And the third responder will be Kim Norton. Again, the question is, what's the city's role in solving the worker shortage and getting more people back to work?
Thank you for the question, and this has been a definite focus of mine this past year. We sought and applied for a grant. We won $1 million from Bloomberg Philanthropies, one of 3 cities in the United States and 15 worldwide, to help us provide the workforce of the future. It is focused particularly on people who had the biggest struggle to get out of the pandemic, and that is our BIPOC women, focusing on construction and the built environment and other related fields. Very proud that we won that, and in addition, we got $750,000 to complement that from the federal government to train our future workforce. We have also, and I've talked a lot about partnerships. We work with READY, we work with SBDC, we work with Workforce Inc., and we have continued those relationships post-pandemic because we know that businesses are vital for this community.
Thank you. And our last responder will be Dean Koutsoukos. Again, what's the city's... We haven't done the four questions before we do the rebuttal. I'm sorry, Mr. Koutsoukos. Again, the question is, what's the city's role in solving the problem related to worker shortages, and how can the city help get more people back to work?
Keeping the costs of businesses low, keeping taxes low, so we can attract new people into our community. That's one of the key roles in the government. But first, the city of Rochester has to work on getting key staff in its own forces. 2,000 years of experience have left the city of Rochester government offices in the last few years. There's not very many candidates reapplying for those jobs. We've got to look internally first before we can solve our own problems, before we can actually help the community.
All right, and now we'll do the rebuttal.
Okay.
Brit Noser.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention the Bloomberg grant, because I see this as, in a way, disenfranchising Rochester citizens. This is a huge amount of money coming in from an unelected person into Rochester. And I do take issue with something connected with the city that only chooses to help a certain group of people. I think the mayor is noble in her intents, but for me personally, I have a problem with that, and it takes to a larger point of having outside special interest groups play a major role in our city. I believe we should have local organic government, and this keeps us on our natural trajectory of incremental growth. And I'm not comfortable with outside special interests playing such a large role in our government. Thank you very much.
Our next question is, what do you see the city's role in supporting efforts to create more affordable housing? We're going to start with Dean Koutsoukos in this question.
Yeah, affordable housing is a big issue in town. Right now, we've built, with the DMC funds, 7 or 9 new affordable housing units. Those are being managed by organizations based in the Twin Cities. The executive salaries and the corporate profits are going to the Twin Cities instead of being reinvested in our town. As part of the TIF funds, we need to put stipulations that those funds go to corporations first that are going to reinvest in our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Our next person in line, let's have Kim Norton with a 1-minute response to the same question, please.
Certainly. Affordable housing has been a challenge in this country and certainly has been a challenge in the city for a number of years. None of the country has been prepared since the 2008 very difficult time with foreclosures and the recession. We have managed that to respond. The city has in a number of ways. We are redoing our building codes, the UDC, the Unified Development Code, which will improve codes and make it easier to buy houses by changing some of the requirements for home development. We have a relationship with the Rochester Area Foundation working specifically on affordable housing and home purchasing. We have a partnership with HUD, with the county, and are participating in something called House America, which is going to allow us to get an opportunity to get more funding. Senior housing is a huge need in this community, and the city is using its TIF to try to help support that. And then homelessness funding.
Thank you, Kim. Next, Brad Trahan with the same question. What do you see as the city's role in supporting efforts to create more affordable housing?
I don't even know if we can call it affordable housing anymore. I place a candidate making $50,000 a year in a job here in Rochester, and even with the gas prices as is, he's driving from La Crosse to Rochester every day just to work. That's reality. We're building on average 1,000 multi-unit complexes in Rochester per year. We're at the pace of Minneapolis. What I want to push for is I took part in the Rochester Area Foundation First Homes open house on 4th Street and 9th Avenue Southeast. They took one lot, turned it into 2 lots, and now they're building 6 homes where on the 3 people can live, 3 bedrooms in the front, 2 bedrooms in the back. They each have their own garage. When people buy homes, when they own their homes, they invest in our community. They stay longer. We now have to get at the situation where let's encourage, let's give some incentives to developers and lessen the fees and whatnot, and let people start buying homes in our community rather than renting them out.
Thank you. And Britt, let's have you finish up with, what do you see as the city's role in supporting efforts to create more affordable housing?
Yes, I think what the city can do is somewhat limited. Again, I don't think these are good things to put in the hands of government. I think they have their hands full with other things. This is a very tough nut to crack, as anybody who's ever looked at it will tell you. You have a lot of factors here. Part of it is the gold rush brought on by DMC, an artificial gold rush that has raised prices. This is a reality that we must face. Other things are the labor costs, the pandemic. There are many things that have contributed to this. But also with the way the city doesn't want to allow expansion at the margins, which I think is a bad idea. I don't think we're at risk of having urban sprawl, and I think owning a home is one of the ways that you create generational wealth. And we are cheating a whole generation of people out of this by trying to stuff them into apartment buildings and, quite honestly, to also get them out of their cars. There is a plan here, and the plan is you don't have a house and you don't have a car. Part of this is by design with all of this green initiative. So that's something that the city could remove those things. Thank you.
Thank you, Brit Noser. Are there any rebuttals to this question? We have time for one more question before we move on to final statements.
All right. And this has been touched on a little bit in this last question, but as development continues along the primary corridors towards into downtown, has the City Council done enough to protect nearby neighborhoods? And we'll just go back to the first rotation, so down the line, Kim Norton.
So I'm not exactly sure what you're getting at here. We do have development downtown, and there has been an effort since before I was mayor to build density in the downtown area and stop the sprawl outside, because sprawl isn't just about allowing homes to be built. It's that the city has to then fund the roads and the sewers and the utilities that go out to them, and it's extremely expensive, and our taxes will pay for it. Are we protecting the nearby communities?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure what you're getting at, but the Unified Development Code that is being developed is supposed to set a tried and true set of policies that will apply equally across the community. So, you know, I guess I'm not sure exactly what you're getting to there. I'm not sure what the question is trying to get at. I'm sorry.
Okay. And Dean Koutsoukos, same question. Has the City Council done enough to protect nearby neighborhoods as downtown development grows?
Well, the DMC has funding in specific areas within the downtown area. There's a lot of, just like a lot of policies that have been implemented lately, we're excluding a lot of areas of town just for DMC funding. That's not fair to everyone in town if we're only focusing on certain areas. We do have to watch the limitations of our utilities. I've done a lot of analysis of the sewer, what happens within the city and what our limitations are. And I've seen the budgets for the streets, helped develop them. We've got to be able to afford the maintenance, the snow plowing of the streets, and maintain the utilities as well. The council needs to be focused on that when they make their decisions, but they also got to make sure that we're not just doing just the downtown area.
All right, thank you. And Brit Noser, same question. Is the city council doing enough to protect downtown neighborhoods?
I don't think in many cases that they are. I think, again, the DMC Gold Rush has brought on this urge for densification. And I think that you take established neighborhoods and you can spoil them by forcing in apartment buildings. The city is notorious for saying, hey, this is a case where the law is bad but the project is good, which they're getting slapped down a little bit just of late. And so I think established neighborhoods should be left protected even if they're close to downtown. I think this push for densification has its place. I understand that we do have a need for more apartment buildings. Some people say, all these apartment buildings, who's living in them all? There are people living in them. We do need them. But I think we have to be cautious around established neighborhoods. I think that's violating the rights and disenfranchising of those that live there. So I don't think they are. Thank you very much.
And Brad Trahan, same question. Is the city council doing enough to protect nearby downtown neighborhoods?
You know, to answer that question fairly, I can't say if they are or not. You know, in my walk in the neighborhoods, when I'm talking to neighbors, I've not heard any discourse about local government, you know, where those local neighbors are being felt out or left out from the city council or the mayor's office, to be frank with you. What I am hearing is about public safety, taking care of our local business and fiscal responsibility, taking care of our neighborhoods. One thing I have been following, it's not final yet, but you know, there's Link BRT that may be coming into our community. That's concern of mine is one of the stops where it's going to be by the government center. It's a $150 million project, and what I look at, what neighbors are concerned in that case, is who's going to pick up the 20%. 80% will be picked up by the feds in the state. The other 20% is projected to be picked up from ridership. However, there's talks that Mayo may pick that up. That's what I hear neighbors talking about. So much more to answer the question the best I could.
Yeah, thank you. And I saw one rebuttal.
We have one rebuttal.
Kim Norton.
Yeah, thank you. I did want to mention one of the things that the city has done is try to encourage more community involvement. We have used a co-design process in many of our new developments in the downtown area and throughout the city. And that co-design method is a way to bring people into the city, not physically, but into the city processes, to utilize their input, ask them to go back out into their own communities, and then bring that information back so that we understand what the needs are of the community, not just in a survey form, but in a real, I don't even know, authentic would be the word, a real authentic methodology so that the neighborhoods are heard during the process of development.
Thank you. And another rebuttal from Brad Trahan.
The only thing I want to add is we've heard the word UDC mentioned here a couple times. I'm all for where we can make things efficient as a city government. I'm all for doing that with the UDC code. The one thing I would just caution is that we cannot do it at the risk of public testimony. If someone's business property or personal property is going to be affected, we got to make sure that we do allow that public testimony. We just had a bunch of zoning changes up here in North Broadway going from a business district to a TOD district. That's affecting businesses that want to do some extra work on their property, but right now they can't because of the zoning changes. We can no longer just send out postcards to businesses or personal property letting them know there could be some zoning changes. It's worth their while, rather than facing a lawsuit in the court of law, let's send out certified letters to the property taxpayers so they know how they're going to be affected now in the future. There's one business on North Broadway that's got $15,000 into a project already, and he's not sure if he can continue on his project just because of the zoning change. That's the type of communication as a mayor that I'll bring to the table. It's lack of communication, no communication, or miscommunication fares no one any good.
Another rebuttal from Dean Koutsoukos.
Okay. There is an opportunity for the residents to speak on developments. We've got the Planning Commission, which posts its meetings and the information on the website. The full agenda is on there. They also have an opportunity at the city councils to present their opinions on what development of the neighborhoods. Again, the agendas with all the comments from the city staff, the county staff, are all there for the public to review and then come to the meetings to make their comments. One thing I'd like to see is if we could find a way where that information would come out weeks in advance instead of a few days, because this is a lot of information for the residents that aren't experienced with the information that our staff is to grasp.
Thank you. We are going to close out this debate with final statements. Again, each candidate will be given 1 minute for their final statement. Let's begin with Brad Trahan, starting from that way down.
Well, first again, thank you 125 Live staff and membership. Thank you to those in the audience. Thank you, Randy and Laura Lee. Thank you to my fellow peers for a spirited debate. I've been in this town for 41 years, and I really enjoy this community a lot. But we have a lot more to offer. I'm not going to be a Democrat or a Republican. I'm not going to be hard right or hard left. I'm going to be the can-do and the will-do candidate. My record proves it. Throughout my years in working in the state on legislative laws, I'm happy to know that I've had to work with people on both sides of the aisle. It's not about red or blue, it's about people. I've been recently endorsed by Mayor Brady and Joe Powers, great people with great respect. They have recognized the leadership I've brought to this community in the past, and they believe that I'm the candidate moving forward to bring this leadership to the city of Rochester to unite us stronger. I will listen to you, I will learn from you, and I will lead with you. Not extreme right or not extreme left. I'm there with the whole committee. I ask you for your vote on August 9th, and I greatly, if you want positive change, I'm your candidate. Thank you so much to all the viewers on KAAL-TV as well.
Thank you, Brad. Brit Noser.
Thank you all for coming tonight, and thank you all that are watching this program. I think as I've been out on the campaign trail talking to the citizens of Rochester, I think one thing is clear. There's a consensus that Rochester is on the wrong track. And it doesn't have to be this way. I'm an optimist. My family is from Rochester for well over 100 years. My ancestors and family members have been the police chief of Rochester, the fire chief of Rochester, nurse at St. Mary's, and a waitress at Michael's Restaurant. I think that Rochester has adopted many bad ideas in recent times, and that we can make a change. We can stop the Minneapolisation of Rochester, and we can set a new course. But to do so, we will need new leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dean Koutsoukos. I apologize.
Thank you.
Koutsoukos.
As an engineer, speaking on topics for 1 minute is really tough to do. These topics are very complex and need a lot of attention. I mean, I think all four of us have handled quick questions really well. But we cannot escape the tragic impact the lives of our kids, our residents, our businesses, and our visitors if we continue to head on the highway of bias and partisanship. The bullying, the loss of teachers, bus drivers, and other key staff, and the budget issues that past legislatures, school boards, and PTAs allowed to plague our schools is now spreading in our city as a whole. Many on fixed income are balancing the high cost of food, medicine, housing, and childcare because they have to pay high taxes. It is time for real experience to correct this now. I appreciate the time you have taken to listen to us, to what we have presented to you this evening, and hope for your vote to put my experience back to work, serving you while expanding Rochester and preserving what many generations have worked hard to achieve.
Thank you, Dean. Kim Norton.
Thank you. It has been my distinct honor and privilege for the last 3.5 years to serve as mayor of Rochester. 3.5 years of probably one of the most difficult times that this community has faced in my lifetime. It has been difficult, but we have done it by working together, by making decisions that are in the best interests of the majority of this community, understanding that not everyone agrees with every decision, but needing to do what was right for our community, a healthcare-focused community with people that live and work and needed to be available to provide healthcare for the people that live here and come here. And that's what we have done. I have the experience in leadership. I have represented this community off and on in a variety of roles for over 25 years. I have a lifetime of volunteering here. I love this community, and I hope you will give me the opportunity to serve during better times for the next 4 years. And I would appreciate your vote and support. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, candidates. Thank you, Laura Lee. Thank you, audience.
Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Let's give a big round of applause for all of our candidates participating today. Again, thank you for joining us tonight at 125 Live. Post Bulletin, Randy, thank you. And again, thank you to our candidates for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you all.